Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Punch, Kick, Choke Chat. My name is Sean Benson. I'm one of your hosts, and I'm so excited to jump in tonight. We're going to talk about so much stuff, especially some fighting stuff. And I am here with Sensei Brad Fowler, and I actually want to jump right into that with you, Sensei. I want to ask you something out of the gate, and then we'll go around the horn and ask everybody. How important is it to knock somebody out or to get knocked out to know that your stuff works, compared to a classical situation where you may not get a chance to try it out in class?
You know what? Yeah, it's the first time was huge for me to hit somebody, not even thinking I hit them that hard. It was one of those things where you always, when you try to hit the bag and you think you're gonna hit it, try to hit it as hard as you can, you just wind up and you really try to hit it. And it's nothing compared to when you just are relaxed and you react, and then boom, it's just there. I've seen this day. I was my second amateur fight. I believe I slipped and I threw a left hook and I caught it right in the tip of the jaw. I thought I barely touched him, and that was it. He tried to get up about 4 times, stumbled across the ring, and that was it. And then honestly, on the other end, I never got knocked out where I didn't get back up, but I fought in Kansas and I fought for an intercontinental title, and first round I thought I was doing great, and he was a southpaw, good fighter, and hit me with a shot, tip of the chin, went down, got back up, but I don't even remember the shot. It just hit right on the button, and again I got back up, but yeah, it was so it can be split second, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to try tension, try to hit hard. It's just being relaxed, and it's just right there.
So after that time where you knocked that person out in your second fight, and it was just that nice, easy home run, did that change how you then went back and looked at either classical martial arts or even your bag work? Like, did you realize, oh, I've been trying to hit too hard, or did you keep the course?
I kind of kept the course, because what I was doing at that point was working. But you know what, actually 100%, like when I first started to really focus on kickboxing, I really had to learn to relax. I was a lot more tense, like with the traditional, and I know even then we are always taught to be relaxed and then tighten up just at that last inch, right? But so often we're tense the whole time. So not that I was tense the whole time, but I learned even more how important it was to be relaxed.
And when you got tagged and when you went down and came back up, did that change how you stood, how you treated other people's power coming at you?
It didn't change, because I was always wanted to be the person who hit and didn't get hit.
Right. So
if anything, yes, you know what? If anything, it made me work on my defense, my head movement, bob and weaving, my footwork, that much more.
Amazing. So let's go around the horn. I actually want to sort of reverse our order a bit. Sensei Dauphin, I want to start with you tonight. How important is it to, have knocked someone out or have felt that in relation to classical dojo martial arts?
Okay, so I'm going to just give a Christmas analogy. It's always better to give than it is to receive, in my opinion. So I've had the training and been put in the places where I've got to knock some people out, or stop them. I guess one thought I'd like to say is I really like when you tag somebody with a body shot and that stops them almost more than when you tag them in the head. Right? And I'll say what Sensei Legacy said. When you tag them in the body and they're down on one knee, they can learn a lesson. You can talk to them, right? When you knock them out cold, they just wake up later and go, what happened to me, right? I've only ever been knocked unconscious by Sensei Legacy, and it's like flash knockouts when we're fighting, right? It's not, and that's probably because I've never done the stuff that the champ has done. I've never done the stuff that Sensei Legacy's done in the ring. So that stuff, like, I probably would have got knocked out a lot more times. But you said, how does it relate to classical martial arts? I think it relates a lot. Right? Because I think if you think of traditional or classical martial arts, you think of people who are defending their lives. There's no street lights, there's no police officers, there's no you don't got a cell phone. You can't call anybody. You got to stay on your feet. You got to get shit done. And I think when you pressure test yourself in the ring or in those types of situations, that is actually traditional martial art. I think that's actually traditional martial arts, in my opinion.
Right on. Thanks, Sensei Dolphin. Sensei Suino, how important is the knockout to feel it or to give it and then go back to the dojo and feather it into what you're doing?
Or
Let me lead.
or the choke out, Sensei.
Yeah. So I was going to lead into that. I've been choked out a handful of times, and I've choked out a couple dozen people. And it's kind of a relief the first time, because you get choked out, and then you wake up and you go, okay, like that wasn't as terrifying as I thought. And I have to admit, I really like choking people out. But on the knockout side, here's a vector that is kind of interesting. Maybe we can wander down the street a little bit later. I've been only like knocked out once, and that was in judo, where I fell on somebody's knee and it hit my jaw and knocked me out. But I grew up in a rough neighborhood. There were a lot of fights. And one of the things I will never forget to this day was a buddy of mine had a feud going with his neighbors. And the two teenage kids that were like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years older than us came out, kicked his ass, and then took his head and slammed it against a tree repeatedly. Ooh. To me, that's like classical martial arts. That was horrible to witness, right? Like, it's one thing to watch them knock out in the ring. You go, fuck yeah, when there's no supervision there and you're a little kid or even a grown up and you're vastly outnumbered. That's a whole different story, and that's a sick feeling, and I would never want to. I hope I never see again. So, right in the ring, controlled people that have a kind of a pact about level of force. That's cool. When it's uncontrolled and dangerous, fucked up.
Hey, before we go to Sensei Legacy, I'm hoping he's going to talk about the time when he knocked that motherfucker out when 4 people came at him.
Well, I was going to say, allegedly, Hanshi, you know about this in and out of the ring, allegedly.
So my question was,
your question is, Sensei, how important is it to be knocked out or knock somebody else out?
well, it depends. We're all thinking, you sort of maybe subconsciously are looking for that. But after you get to our place, to where we are now, you think to yourself, are you thinking to yourself, if I step out in front of this car, will I get hurt? What I mean by that, of you don't really need to. I don't have to have the champ punch me in the head to know that he can knock me out. It's that simple. But that's on a different view. But for your personal egotistical side, you like to be able to see if you can do that or not. And you may not go looking for it, but it's something to you and to your well-being if it ever happens, and then you can use that safely but effectively.
What do you think, Benz? When have you been knocked
out? I've never been fully knocked out, but my sensei by the name of Dauphin has made me see stars to the point where I found myself on a knee, just quite literally looking at stars. And I think it's really important. I was chatting with someone while doing my knee training this week just about, and even the Corkla twins. I remember the first time one of them hit me in the nose. That's the first hardest I'd ever been hit, if you know what I mean. I was like a yellow belt, and it was just like my head exploded. I wasn't knocked out, but it was really important to me to realize in that moment that I was fine, that my nose wasn't broken, that my nose wasn't bloody. And I was telling the guy I was training with, my first thought, and y'all know that I came from a nice background with some Ponzi parents and was a bit that way myself. It's like, my first thought was, how dare he do that to me? As I'm like, my head's exploding, because I had to face my own ego in that moment. So in any, and then the only clean knockout I had, Sensei, you were all there. It was upstairs of the thing with Paul. I felt he'd hit me late, and I wanted to touch him on the face, and wasn't a mark on him. He went down and shook on the floor, and it was a bit like Brad said, like, we were like, what happened? Like, it was such a light touch. It touched a button. And that was important for me to know that too. It was really important for me to go, okay, getting hit that way, but also hitting that way is not a hard, that was not a hard punch. And the body stuff you've seen, it's not hard.
That's cool, Sean, because you knocked out Paul and I knocked out his wife.
They have us framed above the mantle, Sensei.
Oh my
I'm not
gosh.
even, everybody's laughing, but
No,
I
it's for sure.
did. I actually knocked her out.
Are we telling that story or should we move on to the intro?
No, like people can ask questions. We need to get to the champ. That's
Yeah, well, let's make it about the champ. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sean Benson. That's our opening salvo for you all. I think you can see we're going to get into some real specifics tonight, and I'm really excited about it. I'm here with my sensei, Randy Dauphin. He's a 7th degree black belt in Legacy Shorin, as well as a 7th degree black belt in Matsumura Hakatsuru White Crane, and a 4th degree black belt in Muso Jikiden Ishin Ryu Iaido under Sensei Suino. And the first 2 belts come from Hanshi Legacy. Sensei Suino runs the Japanese Martial Arts Center, which he founded. He is an 8th Dan in Muso Jikiden Ishin Ryu Iaido, and also a 6th Dan in Judo and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And Hanshigiri Legacy is a 10th degree black belt and founded Legacy Shorin Karate Jitsu, and is the head of Matsumura Hakatsuru White Crane in Canada, a 10th degree black belt as well. And he also has a black belt in Iaido. Woo! I'm getting better at this.
yeah, nailing it. 2 weeks in a row, nailing it,
2
Ben.
weeks in a row.
Yeah, and I get to
Only
introduce
3 years.
champ, Sensei Brad Fowler, multi-time world champion. So here's my notes. The champ has over 40 years of martial arts experience. Like Sensei Legacy and a bunch of us, he's a black belt in Shorin Ryu Karate, as well as modern Arnis and Kali Silat. Again, remarkable kickboxing experience. And his titles include the IKF World Welterweight Champion, the WPK Intercontinental Champion, the KICK North American Champion, the ISKA Canadian Champion, 2001 IAKS Bronze Medalist, 2003 IAKSA World Champion, Gold Medalist, 2004 WPKA International Competition Pro-Am Champion. And then he took that all over from like a great competitive career into a great coaching career, right? So he became the Canadian national team coach in 2005, 6, and 8. Team Canada coach for the WAKO World Championship in New York, the WAKO World Championships in Spain, the WAKO World Championships in Italy. As a result of that, 2-time Coach of the Year by the Council of Amateur Sport Kickboxing in 2005 and 2006. You know, the champ Brad Fowler, he's trained with some minor names that we all know. People like Leo Laux. I mean, who knows this name? Jean-Yves Theriault, right? Mark Hominick, Bill Superfoot Wallace, Joe Lewis. Who knows those names, right? But the champ trained with all of those people, right? I say that tongue in cheek. We all know who they are. As well, entrepreneur, co-owner of Round One. I was in Round One with a bunch of people. Great gym. And today he's the owner of Fowler Strike Force Martial Arts, and he teaches at Family Karate in London. You should check him out and go there. For me, we were talking before this, couple of thoughts, right? Like I was mentioning it. He once had us into Round One, whole bunch of Legacy Shorin black belts and brown belts, not a class of white belts, like a whole bunch of us. And then he let us all get in the ring for 2 minutes with him. It was like 15 or 18 people, and he fought us all for 2 minutes and maybe took 10 or 30-second break in between. He was super kind and compassionate to everybody. And I was just saying that I remember really wanting to get in there, and it was not really about Brad. I already knew him before. We were already friends before. It was about me. I wanted to prove to myself that, you know, I could get in there with a world champion and spend 2 minutes. And he was nice and compassionate to me until the end when he did a jump spinning back kick and like hit me in the middle of the chest and knocked me into the ropes. And I bounced off the ropes and came back. And what I said is after we got out of the ropes, we hugged each other. It was good. Our friendship was still intact. I felt good. I felt good about what I had done. And I felt even better about who Brad was and him being a world champion. The other thing I want to say is we did the test call with the champ. And at the end of the test call, rather than talking about all kinds of stuff, he just said, any of you guys want to train? Come down. Let's train sometime. Let's train. And I'm like, that really resonates with me. And so a lot of people, I think, and champ, you can challenge me on this if you want. Their whole identity is that they were once a world champion and they were once a fighter and they were once something and they once did something. And one of the things I really respect about you and really love is that you just want to be the best martial artist you can be every day. That it's not about like when you won that championship, it's not about that. And I sat in the crowd and watched you fight lots of times, cheered for you. You're an amazing fighter, but you're an amazing person. And I really respect you for being a really great martial artist who just wants to be a great martial artist still. And so thanks so much for coming on here tonight.
Man, thanks. It almost bringing tears to my eyes, Well, thank you so much. I think you have to, once the past is the past, I think you bring forth the gifts and the lessons. Then you leave the rest behind. Me winning the world title, that was a huge gift, and all the training was a gift. And that's what it is. But I believe that you got to believe that the best is always yet to come. And every day it's a new beginning, and every day is a new day to learn as much as I can. Every day it's a clean slate. It's time to keep learning every day.
I love that, champ. One thing I want to say to you that I learned from Sensei Suino's buddy and mine, his name's Don Pryor. And Sensei Suino, I did this public speaking, this motivational speaking. I've done it with him. It's called Permissions. And they introduced me as, world champion, Randy Dauphin, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm a former world champion. There are new world champions. There are people who are blah, blah, blah. And then Don Pryor yelled out, once the champ, always the champ. Once the champ, always the champ. You're always the champ to me. I'm always calling you champ. That's it.
Yeah. Right on. That's awesome.
Sensei, I'm just going to jump and do a little bit of housekeeping for the people watching, and then I got a couple of questions to kick things off. So for everybody watching, we're so happy you're here. If you're watching later on YouTube or listening on podcasts, please hit that subscribe, smash the like button. We really appreciate the follows and the amplification. It really does a lot for us. And for the people watching tonight, we're so happy you're here. You get to be part of this living history. And there's a chat button on the bottom of the screen that's about to ping up. And that's for you to ask your questions for the champ. And we're really excited to see what you come up with. And the last thing is you're watching 5 adults have a conversation. Some things might be said that you don't like. And if you don't like it, you can go eat a bag of dicks. But not in the good way. In the bad way. Because, yeah. Champ, what brought you into your first dojo and what kept you there?
A lot of people would say Bruce Lee. And although I did like Bruce Lee a lot, it was Chuck Norris. Yeah, I think the first movie I saw was, when it comes to martial arts and seeing it on TV, that as a young boy, that really kind of caught my eye was the show Kung Fu with David Carradine. But then what really grabbed me was seeing Chuck Norris in the octagon. And then my first chance at actually going to a karate class, I lived in Owen Sound. I was born in Goderich, but then things happened in with my family, and we moved to Owen Sound, and I just had an opportunity with a friend to go to one class, and I loved it. And I wasn't able to join, so it was probably about 3 years after that we moved back to Goderich, and I had a chance to go to Holmesville, just a small village outside of Goderich, and at that time it was Pearson and Tyndall's, I believe. And so I went out there, and you know what? I just loved it. It was very disciplined, very traditional, and very hard. Like the training, like yeah, and you know, I loved it. I loved it the first minute I got in there.
So how old were you when you walked in there? And also, you talk about that training. Can you talk a little bit about what those early workouts were like?
So I was 14, and I just remember, you know what? First, after warming up, it was lots of push-ups, lots of sit-ups, and then lots and lots of basics. And which now looking back, it's the best thing. It's the best place. It's the best thing I could have ever done. That foundation that the traditional karate gave me, I would not replace for anything.
Hey, Sean, I want to jump in because Brad and I were saying, like the champ and I were talking,
All right.
things trigger your mind. And I remember once, champ, when we were in round one, and you said, I would take somebody who is a green belt in karate every day to train kickboxing over somebody who just walked in and knew nothing. Is that still true? Do you still feel that way? And why is that? Like, I think you explained it, like the basic.
So, repeat the question again, please. I'm sorry.
So I remember you saying, I would take somebody who's a well-trained green belt in classical karate to train them to kickbox rather than somebody who never learned any martial arts. And you were talking about picking the knee up, like where forming your hands properly and stuff like that,
Absolutely,
right?
for sure. You know, it's just the discipline. When you're at a very good traditional karate club, the discipline that you have to have, the training that you have to have, the learning, and just again, more than anything, is the basics that they instill. Like the basics, the strength in your stances, the strength in your core, like just those basics drilled is so important, because everything comes from the strength of the core, your base, your legs, and then the discipline of repetition, which I think is lost in today.
So let's crack this open a little, because we hear the word basics on every show, but I don't know if we've spent a ton of time talking about it. And it's so exciting to me that, again, with your record as a world champion, a lot of guys would be thinking about, working mitts, working the bag, just doing rounds with the ropes. And you're talking about fundamentals, karate basics.
Can I say something?
Please.
Yeah. So when you say that, even today, when I do bag work, my warm up is I'll sit in front of the bag. I'll do like 20 to 30 jabs, 20 to 30 crosses, and I do every individual punch. And then I'll put some specific combinations, just like 2-punch combinations together, and I work basics. And then I'll do my front kicks, my roundhouse kicks, all my kicks, and then my typical bag work starts. Right?
So let me
I
ask
do basics first.
Yeah, I want to go around the horn, and it might be a real quick conversation, or it might be a longer one, but we'll start with you, Sensei Fowler. So why is that so important? Why not just go right to the thing you're going to do in the match?
The speed, the power of every technique, and I think if you just get in there and you just start throwing a bunch of combinations, you can lose form. The form, it's something that it's there when you're training it, but once you start not training the basics, then you lose those fundamental basics. You get sloppy, and you'll hear everybody say this. Like, you can go to Leo said this to me once. This is a long time ago, but so I think I was doing mix with them or something like that along those lines, and I would say, okay, yeah, just you want to put your elbow up a little bit more. And he said exactly, he goes, I don't get a chance for somebody to critique me. So you can lose things. It's a perishable skill. You need to work your basics. And if you just do the advanced stuff, which means throwing 4 or 5 punch combinations, but you can lose the foundation, the form, if you don't work it.
Thanks, Sensei. Hanshi Legacy, why are the basics so damn important?
Well, I don't want to sound so damn technical all the time, except, you're firing motor units. It's like it's like having a new gun and it's rusty. And if you keep firing it all the time, it gets easier and easier. Then it becomes a trigger finger. I'm just trying to give you an idea there. The other thing is when you fire your basics, not the isometric contractions like Kibidachi and that. It strengthens your legs. Yes, but the more you fire it, and the more it goes into that same order, so that when you decide that inside that you want to fire that punch, it's going to go right into that same order by way of thinking. And the other things that you can learn from them, because it's like, so we'll ask Brad, hypothetically, where would you rather catch the guy, after he's thrown his punch or just before it? You start to recognize the technique sooner, right? And as soon as that, what's the difference here? You're standing in front of a guy, and the guy goes to do a technique, and you just snap your hip, and the punch hits him in the solar plexus, and he can't hit you back. Or the guy throws the punch, you block it, you step back, move to the side, throw one back. There's more of a chance of you getting hurt on the second one, I'd say. So there's a lot of good reasons to do the basics.
Thanks, Hanshi.
I learned karate, become a master.
Sensei Suino, the judo or iaido analog, if you wish, like after 10 years and some tournament wins, why not just start a little more advanced?
Sensei Suino does lots of karate too.
Yeah.
Sean. Yeah.
Rather than talking about how the skills are perishable, I just want to talk about how they arise in the first place, right? We're kind of formless when we start martial arts, right? Maybe we have some innate skill. I always say this about judo, and it's probably true about the other martial arts. If you start fighting right away in judo, you're going to get as good as your native ability gets you, and maybe a little better. But whether it's BJJ or wrestling or judo or any of those, if you drill, right? And drill means taking the basics and we're practicing repetitively and then applying them. You can change who you are, right? You can take your innate ability and raise it up. And I've seen it over and over again. In fact, I've taught people who've had pretty successful careers and made them get even better by saying, listen, go back to the basics, right? You're training your athletic ability. You're not training the fundamentals. So I think it's like forging, right? It's like forging. You can change your structure physically and mentally by practicing the basics.
Thanks, Sensei Suino. Sensei Dauphin?
So let's just, why is it important? I mean, on a practical sense, everybody on this call who's listening knows if you come at me in a threatening way, I'm not going to think too much. What's probably going to happen is I'm going to touch you somewhere super fucking hard with a reverse punch somewhere. And why is that going to happen? Because for the last 34 years, I've done classical basics over and over, and I won't have to think about it. I'll just get to do it, right? And so then if you do it, hey, there's the whiner and liquor. Anyway.
I like that talk.
Anyway, if I learned an oitsuke or a jab and I learned a yakizuke and I learned to pick my knee up and I did that stuff, and then you want to take that out of the self-defense and you want to become an athletic competitor, you want to do point karate, and you need to, then that's better for you. And if you want to kickbox, I don't know how you could learn the combinations in kickboxing, jab, cross, hook, if you never learn those in basics. How are you going to do it? Right? Like, so, and if you did it 10,000 times for 5 years in karate, I'll bet you your learning curve when you go into a kickboxing and they say, okay, now take those 4 things that you've done 300,000 times, and we just want you to combine them like this. Within 3 or 6 or 9 months, you're going to do that pretty fast, like much faster. So I think they're most important for self-defense and most important for athletics is your basics. And, you know, the people who are watching from here, I just made them do like 40 minutes of basics before they could do anything else. Punching, kicking, blocking. That's what they did for the last 40 minutes.
Awesome. Thanks. I really appreciate that. That's me asking for me, hoping that someone out there enjoys that. Sensei Fowler.
I heard, I read a saying, and it was, I forget where it was, but it was from a traditional martial artist, and he said the most advanced thing you could do is basics over and over. And another thing, when it comes to what Sensei Legacy said in regards to you see something, you see a twitch, you see something in your body, next thing you know, without even thinking about it, you hit. It's a saying that I heard from Leo saying, hit back first.
Love it. Love it.
Oh yeah. So
All right.
yeah, Sensei Fowler, let's get back to your journey. So you're young, you're doing all these basics, you're busting ass. How long do you stay with that club? When do you start competing? What's that next little while for you?
So Leo was in that circle or whatever organization. Leo, John Pearson, Leo, and then that's at that point that's who I knew. And so Leo came up for my first white to yellow belt grading. So it was like, you know, at 15 probably at that time, maybe 15. It was like, wow, you know, I got a professional kickboxer, and it really you know, really stuck to me, I guess you could say. So I really thought about being a kickboxer just pretty much at that point. And then so I was there till I got my black belt in 91, and then from that point Ron Tyndall, Sensei Tyndall, asked me about opening up a club under him, and so I did in a small town, Lucknow. At the same time, I started kickboxing. Actually, it was Leo was a police officer in Toronto, and I called him and made arrangements that I went down to visit him in Toronto when he's a police officer, and we did some stuff in his training facility there, and did some boxing, some drills that to this day I do constantly. And he said, he more or less gave me his blessing, saying if that's something that I wanted to do. He gave me, I guess you could kind of say he gave me his blessing, saying that it'd be something worthwhile for me to follow. So also, he is the first person, he took me to Kitchener Kicks, where he trained. And so the day he took me down and did some sparring. I remember Peter Freer was a pro at the time, and he won a world title as well. And so my first sparring session was against Peter.
Yeah. Hey,
So
Champ, I already said we have a tangled history together. And so, you know, you're mentioning Leo, who got his black belt from Sensei. That's a little bit, Sensei Legacy gave him his black belt. So we got a bit of a tangled history there. When you were in there with Sensei Pearson, who also goes back with Sensei Legacy to Benny Allen and Sensei Tyndall, who we all know really well. Who were some of the other names when you were in the dojo, below you, ahead of you? Who were some of the other people you were training with?
Well, in Holmesville, I guess Bruce Henderson, but Gary Fiocco,
Waddy.
Pardon me?
Scott Waddy. Waddy was there.
Scott Watson. Yeah, Scott Watson. Yeah, his black belt grading will always be in my mind. When I already had my black belt, but it was a fun.
You gave him a beating, right? You gave him a beating. I think he said that he got a beating from you. So yeah.
It was a grading that it was a really good grading.
It was really good grading for you. I'm not sure that Waddy liked it so much.
He did amazing. Yeah.
So when you started doing that kickboxing, was that a big shift for you, or was it pretty close to what you were used to in terms of movement? Was it a mental shift more?
You know what? I like to move, like with footwork and stuff like that. And I remember I went to my first Joe Louis seminar, and it was in London. So I came from Goddard to London, and I remember the morning was a Joe Louis seminar, and the afternoon was a tournament. And so he focused a lot on footwork, timing, and stuff. That was the main focus of it. And I won the tournament. I won every fight. And as Ron Tindo said, he goes, I've never seen anybody go to a seminar, take exactly what they taught in the seminar, and apply it in the afternoon. And to this day, I'm still doing the drills. To this day, I just taught last night, and I call it the Joe Louis drill, footwork drill. And I still do it all the time. I've been teaching it in kickboxing, martial arts, I teach it. And I took that drill, just a basic footwork drill, and that's what won me. That and some timing stuff he did, but that footwork drill, nobody could touch me. And it was just the distance and just moving around and footwork.
So I want to crack this open a little, and I'm going to start with you and then go to Sensei Dauphin next, because, one thing Sensei Dauphin says is, I'm not the best guy at any of this. I'm just the best student. And in terms of trying to do what his sensei says. Well, the question's real simple. You said I was able to just take the lesson and then implement it. Now, we all think we're doing that, but how do you do that? I'm going to ask Sensei Dauphin next. Like, what's the thing to avoid when trying to practice what you're being taught, or what are the pitfalls, or how do you do it? We're all trying to just do what our teacher tells us.
I got to say, when it comes to that day and that drill, we always have went to some seminars or learned something, and some things just correlate with us, that it works. It's part of our style anyways. So I like to move, and that day, what he taught, it resonated with me so much.
Right.
And the drills that we did throughout the morning, I was doing it in the drills. I was making it work. And then it just added to my arsenal right away. Yes, other things that I saw in other seminars and stuff like that, I really liked, but then I had to go back and work it.
Got it.
And work it and practice it and be able to do it without having to overthink it or think about it, and it became natural. But I had to work at it. The footwork part and those drills, it just resonated with me right away, and I had it.
Love that. Love the word resonated too. That word resonates with me. Sensei Dauphin, we talk about, and you talk about, just being a good student, trying to do what your teacher tells. What are the pitfalls? What keeps people from doing that even when they're trying?
Well, okay, if you go to a seminar, like as a student of an instructor, it's different than when you go to a seminar, I think, in my opinion. Like, I think those are two different things. When I go to seminars, I just try and empty my cup and pretend like I'm not a seventh Dan. I don't know anything. You just accept it. You went to the seminar because you wanted to learn something, right? Like, I mean, if you went to the seminar because you wanted to pay your money and show everybody what you knew, then that's a waste of money, right? So you went to the seminar because you wanted to learn something and get better. And then you need to go in there with that mindset, empty your cup and go in. And then, I've said it a million times. I've said it on this podcast. The worst mistake students make is not listening to their teacher. There are lessons that I'm still trying to learn. There are lessons that took me like 2 decades to learn, but I always trusted Sensei Legacy and Sensei Suino when they said, just keep doing, you're not there yet. Just keep doing this. Keep doing this. Just keep doing this. They're not trying to fuck you up. They're trying to help you. So like, why would you stop trying to do what they're telling you to do? Yeah. That's my thought on it.
Right on. I appreciate that. Hanshi Legacy, what prevents people from listening to their teacher or the teacher to seminar? And, you know,
Well, what I'm thinking about, the person not listening to the teacher would normally probably be beginners, right? Or they would not have gotten where they are. Some people already have an idea of what they are. Everybody thinks they're a little bit better than they really are. And they don't go in with really the idea of learning too much. Some, but they'll want to show you what they know, right? How many times have you run into that? I don't know what else to tell you.
thanks, Hanshi.
Why they wouldn't listen? You're paying your money to go in, and you know you're. I don't know. I don't understand that at all.
Sensei Sweenham?
Can you pose the question again?
Well, it's really just, you know, Sensei Fowler's talking about how he goes to the seminar and he literally learns exactly what's being taught, and then he goes and wins using exactly what's taught. And I'm sort of broadening the question to the idea of what makes someone like a good student able to do that, and what's the barriers to being able to do that? Because we're all trying to do that. Who doesn't want to go win a tournament based off something you learn at a seminar or from your instructor throughout the week?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody has different levels of talent. So that's one of the things, right? Some people just don't have hand-eye or whatever as much as others. So that's part of it. And clearly somebody that's gone on to be real successful in martial arts has some gifts. But I think if you come in with your mind open, kind of like what Hanshi was saying, I know the times I've learned best is when I'm just like empty vessel, right? You know, I tell the story of going and training with my teacher in Japan, Yamaguchi Sensei. I was just so enamored with this guy. There were no barriers, right? So that's part of it, you know. And yeah, so if you have the right mindset and you got a little bit of talent, you're willing to work your ass off, I think that's you know, maybe that's the formula. Those three things.
Right on. I don't want to spend too much time talking, but I do just want to say that in my experience, one thing I did was I added stuff that no one asked me to do, and it made the path longer. I did that a lot.
I remember.
Yep.
Let me just, Champ, I'm really fascinated by this idea that one of the first kickboxing seminars you ever went to gave you drills that you still use today. Like, that's some good shit right there. So like, there's this classic drill obviously out there that, or maybe it's become classic. Like, I don't quite know how to ask the question, right? But there's some stuff you learn early on in your career that stays with you forever, and it proves the test of time. Have you run into other stuff like that? I mean, you kind of said you had to learn more slowly with other stuff, but you know, what makes a technique so important or so fundamental that you can still use it, you know, 30, 40 years later?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, let's just talk about what I call the Joe Louis drill. All it is just start in an athletic stance. So think of a football stance or a basketball stance. All I do is I go, think my feet, I go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's like go forward 1, 2, 3, 4. And you get that nice and relaxed. 1, 2, 3, and your feet are on the floor, and then you take, and you make it. So from here, push, 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 push. So jab, 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 jab. But you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you do that sideways. 1, 2, 3. So you're learning to move going forward, backwards, left, right, throwing punches at the same time, being able to fight going backwards, fight going forwards, fight going left, fight going right. So it doesn't matter what's happening in the fight. I can fight any way, any direction that I'm doing. And I can do it balanced the whole time.
Yeah. And nobody wants to get punched by a jab from you. We all just saw it.
And I just got back from Norway. And I taught some basic seminars. That was one thing I taught. After that seminar, all the instructors came back and go, I love that drill. I'm taking that to my basic. I'm going to teach that with my kids. They loved it. And it's a basic 4-count footwork drill.
So when we come up and train, I'm doing that. I need to learn that from you.
Yeah. Sensei Dauphin, I know you had a question you wanted to pivot into from all this, which I love.
Yeah, I guess outside of that, so I'll go around like with different people. I'll go to Sensei Legacy and Sensei Suino last. I'll go to you first, Benz, and then I'll go to the champ next. Outside of your own association, right? Like, I don't care what the art is. Could be Kale Eskrima, could be Iaido, could be judo, could be karate. I don't care what it is. What's a seminar that you went to, like, where you learned something from that teacher and you're still doing it today? Like, you're still, I went to that seminar, I learned that thing. And I guess, Benz, I'll go to you first, but I'll let people think about it for a second. I remember being with Sensei Alam Mashad in Sensei Suino's dojo. And there was this, again, it's what the champ was talking about. There was a certain disguised footwork in order to be able to cross the distance and bring yourself forward. And I was already high ranking, but that was 20 years ago. And I'm still like, that's an amazing technique. And I do it all the time and it works every time. Like 99% of the time when I do what Sensei Mashad said to do in that seminar, I can land a kick, I can land a punch, and nobody sees it coming, right? So that's one for me. Anybody got another one? And Sean, you can go first, and then we'll go to the champ, who already said one, but if there's another one, then we'll go to Sensei Suino, Sensei Legacy, seminar. You learn something, you're still doing it, you're still teaching it.
Love that. You know, for me, there's just one thing, and it was one of the first seminars with Hanshi Sandoval, just taking a punch and just this motion into the stepping behind with grabbing the neck here and bringing the person down. It was the simplest move. I do that all the time in terms of bunkai. That's just one move that dropped in for me that felt different than anything I'd done to that point. And it's really about the footwork on that one. But more recently, it was actually with the champ, Ben Ladouceur, which is literally the first drill of just keeping the distance. I've been doing that every time I spar now. I'm just trying to maintain, I'm trying to control the exact distance I want using just that first, not even the kicking or punching yet. And I've got my students doing that as well whenever we do sparring classes.
Awesome. Champ, what are you thinking? Anything besides Joe Lewis?
Just Joe Lewis.
Yeah, besides that weak name, Joe Lewis, do you have a better name?
Yeah, 3. So John Eves. So he has a bunch of just kind of one-step sparring type games, just where you're just throwing your jab, just throwing a certain technique or a certain combination. And actually, Leo, when I said that I went down to visit him that weekend, that I got my black belt, had my own school under Ron Tyndall, and I called him and I visited him. One of the drills we did is just boxing, but basic, one guy jabs, one guy moves, then the next round the guy can counter, like just some basics. And that's what I learned also from John Eves that I'm still doing today, nonstop. And then Bill Wallace, I went to I think it was 3 seminars of his, and so some of his stretching, but definitely the leg strengthening.
Amazing.
And the balance. All that stuff I still do today.
Amazing. Sensei Suino, what seminars did you go to that you're still doing stuff today?
I've been to a lot of seminars in my life, a lot of them in Japan. Well, my favorite judo throw is harai goshi, right? You turn in front of your opponent and you sweep them while you do a hip throw. And I had this old tough bastard at my dojo in Yokohama who just threw me with that all the time. And I could not find a can opener to get into it, right? I knew how to get thrown by it really, really hard, and I couldn't do it. But they had what they called a winter workout, right? And you'd go there in the dojo like it was ice on the toilets. It was so cold. And you'd go there and you'd warm up and train for like 10 hours. And this college judo guy came in and dissected the technique. And he said, "This is how you do harai goshi." And he was sick at it. I don't even remember his name. But shortly thereafter, I started getting good at it, and it's my best throw by far. So yeah, and so that was 1989. Yeah, still doing it.
I'm glad you didn't take it to the direction of a cold toilet.
Well, there's a lot of things I do on cold toilets. That's a whole nother show right there.
Sensei Legacy, man, like you've gone to more seminars than any of us. Is there any seminar that you went to with somebody where it was like that clicked in for you and you still do that and you've taught us to do it, you've brought it into yourself and you're pushing it forward?
Yeah, well, I never had as great opportunities as most. So I'm really just a small town, close around type of guy. But I did get to, and it was my introduction to Benny Allen when I went in there, and I sort of mouth off to him. And I didn't really mouth off to him. I made a joke, but he didn't like it. So he just sort of put his hand on me like that. And that opened up a whole new can of worms for me. That's the kind of karate I was looking for. I wasn't looking for the, here's a trophy karate. I wanted the hands-on, do some damage, hit guys, like Brad. I wanted to hit like that. Just that I was there before him.
Yeah.
But, there's no comparison, of course, but. But to me, Benny Allen physically opened my eyes up to what I was really looking for. And it made me realize that most people who think karate is hard, it's not supposed to be. It may be hard because you're a lousy karate person. It's you need speed. You don't want to be tightened up. And I was listening to Brad there, which I really loved at the very beginning where he said, when you hit, you close your hand. You don't want your hand closed tight because it slows you down, right? So it was all about not showing me how to do a block, but really how to keep the machine well oiled and everything like that.
Sensei, I'm so happy that you brought that one up. In my mind, I was like, I hope he talks about the first time he met Benny Allen at that seminar. So
I also want to.
What year do you think that was? Sensei, 1970 what?
One or two. But I also trained with Bob Dalgleish. And I'm only saying that because he was a good friend. He came over, he'd play with my children and stuff. Because he was like a great, a pioneer. So it sort of places me back with him. And but he is a great that I trained with.
Yeah, I like that. So 1972 would mean that I was like 1.5. Sean wasn't born. Brad was like 3 or 4, and Sensei Suino was like maybe 10. So that's what was happening at that time.
You bunch of brats.
Sensei Fowler, let's bring this back around. So now you're starting to get the hang of certain things. You're starting to kickbox. You're starting to move a certain way. Talk us through the next little while of you getting hooked up with the circuit and making your way to fundamentally championship realms.
Yeah. The beginning. So at that point, there was no amateur kickboxing in Ontario at all. There was no sanction. So I had to travel to kickbox. So I had the opportunity to go to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And so I trained hard, and, it was a great fight. Went out way too hard. And, overexcitement. I remember, well, it was in a club, like a big kind of a bar, disco type club. And the change rooms were upstairs. And then you had this, they had the ring was on the stage, the bar, and then the door was behind. So there was this very small stairwell, and all you could hear, it was almost like Gladiator. It made me feel like Gladiator going down the stairs to the door. All you could hear is the cloud or the crowd cheering, and it was pretty nerve-wracking. But anyway, I remember the bell went, and I just went out hard as I could, did well. Got caught in the first round. I was winning, got caught, flash knockdown, jump back up, and we went toe to toe for 3 rounds. And I lost the decision, but it was I could not have got a better idea of what kickboxing was like. I went so hard and pushed myself. I couldn't hardly even stand up when it was done. I swear, when we hugged after, if you watch the video, you can see he held me up because I was exhausted, completely exhausted.
Hey, champ, I remember, like, you're talking about something that spurs something in my mind, which is, you know, not sanctioned. Like, you know, kickboxing was around, like Joe Corley and those people got it together, and Leo had done it. And then you came in at the time when it was kind of reverting, and then you helped to move it forward and keep it going. I remember once, I just want to share this with everybody. Spencer Legacy and I went to watch you fight in Toronto. I think it was Marty and Mick McCann was promoting something. And the guy, I can't even remember his name, but he came in like 14 pounds heavier than you. He was like gigantic compared to you. And I just want to say to everybody, the champ fought. He was like, it's okay that he's 14 pounds heavier. I'll still fight him. He still fought him. Like, and when you're in shape, 14 pounds is a fucking huge difference. 14 pounds is giant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that, champ? You remember that fight? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you know, but you did all the training. You did all the training. You put forth the effort. The last thing you want to do, which happened to me on more than one occasion anyways, where you did all the training and then it either got canceled last minute, or, you know, the thing is, you're there. You did all the training. If you can do it, you're going to do it. Doesn't matter if he's heavier, lighter, like different guy. You put the training, put him in front. Let's fight, because I put in the time. I want, you know, yeah, I'm with the word, you know, I'm a competitor. That's it. I want to compete.
I think Leo always told you not to do the jump spinning back kick. And then I remember in that fight, you still did it and knocked the guy like deep into the ropes. And that's why I'm happy that you hit me with that jump spin. Because you're not supposed to do that. Leo told you not to do that, but you do it anyway.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about something you talked about, that, you know, that feeling when you come in and going out way too hard, and there's levels to this. I mean, I get nervous every time I spar with Sensei Dauphin, every single time, and I will for the rest of my life, I'm sure. But that's a little different than the adrenaline dump of you walking into the ring. So can you talk a little bit about this adrenaline dump that people experience when they compete at that level?
Yeah, you know, like now I can feel it coming on. The thing is, you know, your heart rate starts going. Once your heart rate gets up to a certain point, that's your adrenaline starts going, everything starts going. So it's about knowing how to control that, because even after that time, I remember like sitting before I, you know, warmed up, whatever, and then sitting waiting, and my mind started going, my heart would start going. It's like, okay, breathe, and it's modulating breathing. So just focusing on your breathing, trying to calm down, and that way you prevent that adrenaline dump from happening. But one thing that I was told early on in training is that you can pretty much guarantee that your nerves are going to take out at least 2 to 3 rounds. So make sure, if you're, like, we'll say an amateur, you're training for 3 rounds, you better be good for 6.
So talk to us now. I just want to push the 10 questions, just a couple minutes, because I want to stay on this path with you. You're in the circuit now. At what point do you realize, oh, I'm really good at this, and I'm going to keep going, and I got my eye on the prize?
When I fought, so actually two times that really, my second, so after I had that first fight that I lost, but it was a major good experience, and I was relaxed. I had people there. I went in and I had an amazing fight, and so that one I ended it I think in the second round with a good old traditional hard front kick. Hit him with a hard front kick. He landed on his bum, and it was the ropes that kept him from not going out of the ring. That was good basic hard front kick. Yeah. And then the other fight was I fought. It was my third pro bout, and it was in Belleville, Illinois. Leo drove, and it was Canton Miller, who was 9th in the world at the time, and it was a 5-round fight, and I won every round, stayed ahead of him, did amazing. I hit him with that spinning. This is funny because I hit him with that spinning back kick in the 3rd round. Watching the video, you can hear that boom, the smack right in the stomach. He lifted up, hit the rope, landed, and just kept coming. Didn't affect him at all. And I hit him hard. And then in the 5th and final round, I hit him with a spinning hook kick right on the head, went down, jumped back up, and finished the fight. That guy, it was tough. And it was, but then, yeah, it was, everything went well with that fight. It was a great experience. Those are the two that I knew, okay, this is for me.
Well, we're going to jump to 10 questions. Then we're going to come back to the rest of that path to championships and beyond. Sensei, we ask that you answer as impulsively as you can. And then if you want to expand on your answer, go for it. What is the most effective move in your martial arts arsenal?
Spinning back kick.
I knew you'd say that. I knew you were going to say that.
It's besides that left hook. I've stopped 1, 2, 3, I think 4 people with the spinning back kick and knocked one guy completely out with a spinning hook kick.
Who's the most influential martial artist in your life?
Leo Laux. And then when it comes, well, Leo Laux, I got Ron Tyndall. And then it'd be kickboxing people, but Leo Laux, Ron Tyndall.
Who do you think is the most influential martial artist of all time, and why?
Yeah, I'd have to say Bruce Lee. To bring it out so we all can see it, or like the first one really to come out with it and have movies and he lived, breathed. Like I remember reading an article and it said even him watching at a theater, watching a movie, he was doing moves. He was doing moves and training while he was sitting down watching a movie. But just what he had done when he was alive and even in death, I guess you could say.
What excites you most about the next 5 years of your training?
Just how much I can learn. Yeah, I just, you know what, like I said, every morning's a clean slate. I just want to keep learning. I'm really enjoying the Cali Silat evolution. And the people, you know what, just the people that I'm meeting, training with, the more people, the better. I'm traveling martial arts. If anything, martial arts is what has allowed me in kickboxing, both martial arts and kickboxing, to travel around the world, meet many, many different martial artists. And I can't wait for it to keep going. As in December, I'm meeting and having dinner with Benny the Jet, which I'm really looking forward to. Let me say this one thing. There's three kickboxers that influenced me to get involved. And Leo's number 1. Second is Johnny Stereo. And the third was Benny the Jet. As a kid growing up, besides like Leo gave me so much and the desire and a lot of the training, what Leo gave me too, I guess, is the intent. Like when I first sparred with Leo, when I got my black belt, And I remember it was a point fight, and they stopped it, and like he just like at the end it stopped. He still boomed eye to eye, looking at me, and didn't turn away. Just backed up, didn't take his eyes off me, and just that intense. That's one. Like he gave me a lot, but that's one major thing he gave me. And then Johnny's, I bought his videotapes, stuff like that. Then I met him in a seminar, amazing. And then Benny the Jet, I bought his whole VHS series, and one of the first books, two first books I got were Johnny's kickboxing book and Benny the Jet's kickboxing book.
Hey, champ, we have two of the same three. There's a different third one because you say Benny the Jet, right? So the other two, Leo and Jean-Yves, for sure. For me personally, I replaced Benny the Jet with Brad Fowler. That's the third one for me.
Oh man, thank you so much. Oh man, thanks.
No, you're an awesome fighter, champ. Like I watched you. You're awesome, unbelievable fighter. So good, as good as all those other people you mentioned.
Oh man, thanks. That's thanks.
Thanks. Sensei, do you have a favorite film and TV martial artist or action star?
Right now?
Yeah.
Or just, we'll say right now, Jason Statham. For right now, for sure. Chuck Norris was like the one that, again, really got me hooked.
Love it. Love it. Do you have a martial artist, living or dead, thousands of years ago or today, that you'd want to train with the most?
There's so many. You know, it's so hard to narrow it down to one, really, like honestly, like, and I've trained with a lot of the people. I guess, you know what, I gotta say, because out of the kickboxing people who influenced me, I gotta say the one that I haven't met or trained with is Benny the Jet. But sorry.
No, yeah. I don't want to interrupt if you're still thinking.
No, that's good.
If everyone in the world could get the greatest benefit you've gotten from martial arts, whether they train or not, what would it be?
Discipline, mental strength.
And our last two questions come as a pair. Greatest achievement, greatest regret.
Greatest achievement, winning the world title. I always feel I could have trained harder. Maybe that's not true, but I always felt I had. I just felt like there was maybe more and more I could have done. I'm never, yeah.
My brother from a different mother. I love that.
Sensei, I just want to put a button on one aspect of what we've been talking about, and then there's something we all want to get into. Talk about that title, that first title fight. Talk about becoming champ and how that felt.
Great.
Anything you want there?
My first title fight, though, actually was like my first world title fight was against Chris Algieri in New York for the WK world title, and I lost. I got stopped in the 8th round. Chris Algieri, like, so it was a great fight. I knocked him down. He, like, so picture it, is in Long Island, New York. He is the hometown hero. He was 18 years old at that time, I think. And 21-0 with 18 knockouts, I think. Remember correctly. Anyways, we had a great fight. It was and then in the 4th round, near the end of the round, I hit him with a left hook, knocked him down and pretty much out. And well, you know what, things happen. Anyways, he got up and recovered the storm. And in the 8th round, he caught me with a liver shot. Perfect. It was a perfect shot. It won't take anything away from him. And I went down to one knee, couldn't breathe, was looking at the ref, waited till 8, got up, ready to go, and they called.
So,
But
Sean, I just want to say the champ's being like nice about politics in the ring. And what he's saying is that he won that fight. He should have been the champion, and politics, or he's not saying that. I'm saying that.
Right.
That fight should have been stopped when that guy was knocked out. And the liver shot when he got up at 8, it should have carried on. But whatever, hometown favorites happen.
Sure. And let's talk about the time you finally took it.
that was my toughest fight. Absolutely. So if you think of if Rocky was fighting in kickboxing at a lighter weight, that's who I fought. This guy, all he did, he went pretty much for the whole fight. He went forward. It's the only fight that at the end of the fight, my hand, I didn't break it, but it was hurting for about 2 weeks after. And I hit him with so many straight rights, but he was coming forward the whole fight. Like I thought, like before going in and training and seeing his past fights, I thought, okay, I'm going to be stronger than him. I'll be able to push him back, or I wasn't too worried about his strength. Boy, was I surprised. Because he took everything I gave him and still kept coming forward. So it was my footwork, my angles, my head movement, my defense that won me that fight.
Yeah, he took everything, but you took the strap.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how'd it feel? How'd it feel? Was it what you'd hoped?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, so one thing that I tell people in that the hardest fight during that fight was fighting myself. Every time in the corner, you got the we'll say you got the angel on one shoulder, you got the devil on the other. And so I was so exhausted, and the one saying, hey man, you did great, you're okay, you can stop, you can quit. But this shoulder here saying, no man, you can't quit, go out there and fight and finish. And I listened to that.
That was the devil, right? The devil was telling you to keep fighting.
I love that.
Sean, I need to ask a question.
Please.
Curious, champ. So you get the strap. You leave, right? Like you're in the ring, you get the strap. Over the next week, how many times do you look at that? How many times are you like, oh my God, this is mine? Like, yeah, I did all this sweating, all this bleeding, like,
it was, it's hard to, to express it in words, how I felt. And, because, everybody, like, I think everybody's got stories, like, in the way of this, like, the beginning of my career, like, I feel I had a lot of kind of, shitty ends of the stick kind of thing, like where things didn't go my way and things didn't go my way. And I still knew, I still knew that I got to keep going. Because there was times that I seriously felt like, I'm going to quit. I'm done. And it's like, no, I can't. And I kept going, and it was all worthwhile. And that's when I look at that. And after sticking that out and going through the toughest fight, which I couldn't, it's the best way to have it, to be pushed to your max and come out on top. I learned so much about life and about myself in that fight that I never, ever would have learned otherwise.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Sensei, we're going to switch gears a little. We got a question that came in from Robert Schlumsky, part of our PKCC team, who's running the show tonight from behind the scenes. How did you find your way into Arnis and Cali? And then the second question he has is, what do you feel is the benefit of learning new and complementary martial arts?
So first part of the question. So when I was fighting, my brother was, so my brother started where I started after me, doing Shorin with Tindall's karate. And then he ended up moving with work, coming to London, and he started Kempo karate, American Kempo, with Jamie Seabrook. And so part of Kempo is modern Arnis. I guess, yeah, so Remy Priestess got together with Ed Parker, and anyway, so my brother just called me up and said, hey, I'm going to be doing some private Arnis, modern Arnis with Jamie Seabrook. Are you interested in joining me? And I remember Remy Priestess from the cover of Black Belt magazine. So I said, yeah, I've always wanted to try that. So in amongst my career, we trained. I think it was 2005 that we started doing some privates, and then I went to a weekend camp, modern Arnis camp in Lansing with my brother. Yeah. So that's what. And then I got had some major fights coming up and stuff like that. So I stopped training for quite a while. And then I think all styles have their merit, all styles have something in it for everybody and have things that are useful. And I think the more you can learn, the more you can learn, the better. Like like I said, I'm always a student, and I just want to keep learning. And the more you know, the more you know what you don't know. Or sorry, the more you learn, the more there is to learn, and you really don't know anything.
Yep. Yeah. Amen. I know that we're all nodding our head at that. And then another question I want to ask you is, the coaching. It seems to me like this is something that's as important to you as your own competing was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talk about that transition.
Well, that when I was doing that coaching, I was fighting as well.
Okay.
And I just wanted to give my knowledge and to help people as much as possible to be the best that they could. And if I could help somebody be better than just be better and better than they think they were, like if I could help people, like I gotta say, one event, it was in 2006. It was in Niagara Falls or Toronto. One of the years, 2005, I believe it was, or 2006, in Niagara Falls, I believe it was. Anyways, so one of the students was fighting, and it ended up that it was two Canadians that had to fight, and I was designated to be, we'll say, fighter A, and fighter B was the better athlete, had won more fights, was stronger, and I knew that fighter B could win, and I knew how he could win. And so I helped him. I had the game plan. He didn't believe it, but he did it, and he won. And that was I've never had anybody come up to me like he did. He was in tears, and he hugged me like I've never been hugged before, because he did something that he did not believe he could win whatsoever. Mm. He did the plan that I thought would win, and he won. And just to be able to do that for somebody, it's amazing. It's more important than anything I could do for myself, to be able to do that for somebody else.
And is that something, because we have a lot of people on the call watching and who generally watch our videos later, who are instructors themselves, but maybe younger instructors. What could you tell them about that? And maybe we'll go around the horn on this relatively quickly. This will be our sort of last chat, but how do you see that in someone when they can't see it in themselves? What is it that lets a teacher see what the student or the athlete can't?
Well, I think you see a lot of things from the outside perspective where they can't see that. So I saw abilities in him that he could utilize against his opponent, because I knew both of them. So I knew what they both brought to the table. And I knew a game plan that he could utilize with his arsenal that would beat his opponent. I just think with the outside, as a coach, you have the outside perspective. Just like when I'm fighting and I'm in the ring, there's so many things I can't see. So I have to trust my coach, because he can see way more than I can see. So even though I can remember being told something and say, well, I can't do that. It's not, and just having trust though, and going, okay, and believing in your coach, believing in your instructor, and committing to it.
Right on. Hanshi, I really saw you nod along with that. Do you want to add anything to what helps you see something in someone they can't see in themselves?
No, I agree with Brad. That's why you would have a coach or anything like that. Things that you see immediately happen in a flash. When your coach is sitting out there at a distance, it's more in slow motion.
Mm.
It's good to have. I always say when we come to that is, Ali had a coach.
Absolutely.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Yep.
Sensei Suino, you want to go anywhere on that?
Yeah, just in the way that people can't always see it themselves, right? Especially when you're kind of new to the martial arts.
Mm.
You're inside yourself, right? You're having your own experience. A lot of times they're not even able to get perspective yet, right? I got young judo students, and you go, man, I've seen this track before. This person's going to be really good, right? And you say to them, hey, listen, you got talent. I see these things in you. And they just go, huh? Right? They're just in their own experience right now. Maybe they've been doing a year, 2 years, 3 years. They haven't got to the point where they can reflect on their own training very much. So that's one of the big things I think a sensei or coach can bring to the table.
Sensei Dauphin?
Sean, like in the beginning when I started teaching, I was basically a dumbass, right? Like, and it was all about me. Like, I wanted to teach because I wanted to be like Sensei Legacy. He taught. So in order to be that, I got to teach.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't really about the people. It was more about me. But then like in time, it changes. And it becomes, you become the thing that you wanted to be, or you're more down the path. And then you want to drag people down that path too. And if you care about the art anyway, you want to drag people along too, because one day none of us will be here and somebody else will be here. And hopefully they're dragging people down the path too, which has happened for, a couple of centuries now. Another note I would say is on that, like in the beginning, and even sometimes today, like, I mean, I've called Sensei Suino and Sensei Legacy lots of times with lots of indecision about myself and what I should be doing. And they're farther down the path and they've done things that have helped me, and they've always helped me. They've helped me from the time I was a white belt. And now that I'm a 7th degree black belt, they're still helping me, like with my own indecision and my own, because they see things in me that I still don't see in myself sometimes.
Yep.
And that's just totally honest. Like, I still have insecurities and I still have things where it's like, I'm not sure about this, and I'm, and they still help me with that because they still see my blind spots, that they're blind spots because I don't see them. Right?
Sure.
And they see them, right? And then, Sensei Legacy and I just 2 weeks ago went to the Pinery. We walked around on the beach. We fished. We did all kinds of stuff. And he gave me a bunch of lessons that just through conversation that I didn't have before and that I've been thinking about since, right? If you don't got a teacher and you don't got a coach and you don't have that in your life, then you don't got that.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah. The only thing I want to add to that, and it's a lateral idea. It's not quite the same idea, but it's something you've both taught me, Sensei Legacy and Dauphin, is I can't want it for you more than you want it, but maybe on a Monday night I can, like maybe a night or 3 I can. And that's a real exciting thing. It's like, oh, I can get you through this night, but then it's on you. And then when they get through it after that and realize that they just needed that sort of, bridge energetically or motivationally, it's like, it's less about a specific technique and more about, okay, now you go run with this, but wanting it and seeing that they could have it if they choose to. Sensei Fowler, we're gonna finish going around the horn, but before we do, most memorable fight you ever had and why?
You know what? Can I give 2?
You can give 2 for sure.
So the one was I fought a guy named Scott clay. It's after I hadn't fought in a little while, and first round, and threw a double jab and a spinning hook kick, and it caught him flush, and it was probably the best knockout I've ever had. Spinning hook kick, literally, I remember him completely being flat before he hit the ground, and he hit. And the other one was my last fight, which was the toughest fight I've ever had, and when it comes to in the ring, and taught me more about myself than anything in my life so far. And yeah, that was definitely the fight that's most memorable. And yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. So, you know, if you've watched the show, what we do is we go around and we say a little something about our time with you. And then the last word, other than some housekeeping, will go to you. So, Hanshi Legacy, what do you want to say about our chat?
I really like the chat. In a way, Brad and I in martial arts are related. You know, I think we all are. But I'm just saying that, and I can see by your ideas, by being trained by your teachers who are related to our guys. We all came up to John Pearson. He lives in the same building right here as I do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I can hear your thoughts and I understand it, and I can almost feel how you fight just because of, you know, us all being around those guys.
That gives me chills.
I'm happy for you that you got to become a world champion, and hopefully we can talk soon.
I love that. I would love that. We're gonna get together. Yeah, let's all get together. I'd love to get together with you 100%.
Okay. Take care. I'll see you soon.
You will. You will.
Thanks, Hanshi. Sensei Suino?
So much, but I just want to hit two things because I know the night's drawing late. One is I was a pretty new karate student in 1980. I think I was a green belt, and I went to see Chuck Norris in the Octagon. And I can still remember like half the scenes in that movie. And I left there at night, went out in the park and practiced karate for like 3 hours. I was so jacked. So it was so cool to hear you mention that movie.
Yeah.
I love that. And the other thing is 100% before too long, we're going to be in the same gym doing something together. I can't wait to do that, man.
Yes.
Super
Love
cool.
It. Yeah.
Thanks, Sensei Suino. Sensei Dauphin?
Yeah, listen, champ. I like what Sensei Legacy said. I really do feel like I'm related to you in martial arts. Like I feel that strongly. Like that's not, I don't mean that passively. I mean that very actively. Like our roots are the same. Like the roots of who you are and who I am. And I really value that. But I do write some things. Mostly tonight, I just felt like we were having a great chat. So
yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I like what you said about underground fights. Not underground fights, sorry. They were fights.
Sanctioned dojo matches.
I really like the beginning. We all are talking about basics. To me, that really resonated, like just basics. And I also, one thing I'm taking away that I really feel as a person who's in their 50s now is it is a perishable skill. Like if you don't keep up with it, it's going to disappear. Like it just is going to. If you don't keep lifting your knee, twisting your hips, doing this shit, it's going to go away. No matter how long you did it, it's going to go away. It's a perishable skill. I like that. It's so neat to hear like Wadi's name and Fuko's name and Sensei Tyndall and Sensei Pearson and Leo's name. That again speaks to the roots of, you know, where we all come from. And seeing Sensei Legacy talk about Benny Allen and seeing you nod your head, like that's awesome. Like I just love it. It's like yeah. It's like a brother that you have that you knew you had, but you just don't get to see him every day, right? You don't see him every day, but you know he's out there, right? I knew you were gonna say spinning back kick. Honestly, if people are laughing, most people would say that's a stupid technique. But what I would say to them is, that's only because you can't do it like him. That's what and if you could do it like him, it would be a great kick. And I'm so happy I got kicked by that kick, champ. Like I'm happy I can say, yeah, I got it. Like I took it, and you're right. I think it's really cool when you talked about Jean-Yves Theriault and Leo, and I'm super excited. I can't wait to hear how your meeting with Benny the Jet Urquez goes, because that guy's a legend, right?
And let me say one thing: the spinning back kick came from Benny. So
Wow.
first, I started doing it from Chuck Norris because of seeing the octagon, seeing that because he threw it. But then I bought the book and I bought VHS and he taught it down to a science. And yeah, that's my spinning back kick was from Benny the Jet.
Okay, well, here's something you can tell Benny the Jet. If it was between him and Chuck Norris and I had to only be kicked by one of them, I would pick Chuck Norris. That's just me. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. All due respect. I'd be dead either way, but you know.
100% agree with you.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. I liked when you talked about discipline, mental strength. That's the greatest gift you could give everybody. That came through a lot. You know, you talked about, I think his name was Chris Algieri, right?
Chris Algieri.
Algieri, sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that you're brave enough to stand out here and talk about a loss, right? Like so many people, their ego kicks in and they only want to talk about the great things that they did. And I'm hearing from you that some of your losses were some of the greatest things that you ever did. And so it's really good to hear that.
Yeah.
I like when you said that in the beginning, a lot of things didn't go your way. And guess what? That's life for everybody. In the beginning, a lot of things don't go your way. And a lot of people think about quitting, but only people like you become world champions. Everybody thinks things aren't going my way. I think I want to quit this job. I think I want to quit this thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Only champs become champs, right? Like we all have those thoughts, but you moved on to be a champ. So then you said all stars have merit. I agree with you, except for maybe one or two, right? Sorry, between you and I think they all have merit, except for maybe one or two. I don't think they have any merit. I also like the last thing you said. One of the last things was most important was that when you were coaching people, you did something for somebody else that was more important than anything you could have done for yourself. That's an awesome statement. Everybody should think about that, right? Like if you're a teacher or whatever, you're trying to do something for somebody else that's more important than what you could do for yourself. And one thing that you said repeatedly through this is this fight, this experience, this thing taught me a lot about myself. And I think that's awesome. Everybody needs to learn more about themselves and not more about like everything else. And Champ, you said, I know you want to do a charity thing soon, and you've said it before, and you said, let's train soon. Let's train soon. Let's get together soon. Let's sweat soon. Let's do some epic sit soon. And I'm so happy, right? Like, I'm so happy that you were on here tonight. It was so comfortable. And thank you so much.
I'm blessed to be asked, blessed to have this opportunity. Yeah, I've never had this opportunity before, and just like I just said it, but I'm blessed to know you guys and to have the life that I've had. And there's so much more. Like I said, the best is yet to come. So every day is, like I said, clean slate, a day to learn.
Yeah, love
and
it.
Train. A day to learn and train and learn.
Thanks, Champ. Before I throw it to Sensei Dauphin to tell us what's up for next week, I just want to add that that's actually the thing I wanted to comment on is when you just said, you didn't say every new art's a chance to learn or every new fight's a chance to learn. You said every morning is a clean slate. And as a guy who tries to live one day at a time, hearing you say that like multiple times throughout the call, I'm like, I'm excited to get up tomorrow. Like I'm excited to go, all right, this is Friday. I got stuff on my plate and it's a clean slate. And I really love the way you drove that home and you obviously live that. Sensei Dauphin, tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, so tomorrow when you get up, Sean, do your basics.
Awesome.
Yes.
What's coming up is next week. Again, we're going to talk to some minor names, right? Like, we're going to talk to Hanshi Tarian. We're going to talk to Hanshi Burkowski. We're going to talk to Hanshi Sai. And, you know, again, this minor name who's a personal hero of mine, Jean-Yves Theriault. We're going to be talking to them next Thursday. And what we're going to be talking about next Thursday is Capital Conquest. So Sensei Legacy, Sensei Suino and I are going up there. We're going to be teaching, and I'm super pumped about it. Like, you know, to say that I can teach at a seminar at the same place where Jean-Yves Theriault taught, like, that's
amazing.
That's a huge check mark, right? That you could be asked to do something like that. And we're going to talk about all the benefits, any memories, those types of things. And yeah, I'm hoping the champ Brad's going to come up too. I already talked to him. We want you there, champ. Like, yeah. That's what's happening next.
I just had I gotta maybe arrange some things. And I was thinking about that today. So I just see what I can do. I want to go really badly because
anything we can do to help you.
In 2019, and I wasn't able to. So
yeah, anything we can do to help you, champ, we're good. So that's what's coming up next week, Sean.
That's awesome, Sensei. Thank you for that. And I just want to say thanks to Andrei Sedashev, Justin Shea, Alden Adair, and Robert Schlumsky, our man tonight, for keeping the show running, keeping the posts going, keeping you all apprised of what's happening. It does not happen without them. Thank you. And thank you for being here, everybody. Senseis, champ, such a pleasure. Have a great time, everybody watching. See you in a week.
Thanks, everybody. Rock and roll.
Champ. Thank you so much.
thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You deserve it.
Thank you.